Today's topic is really about what's working, what's not, how can we better use recognition to support retention in a 24/7 healthcare environment that's spread across various teams and departments. And so to help guide the discussion today, we've pulled together a few key questions based on the themes and questions that you lovely folks submitted prior to the event today. And so we'll be going over what the retention challenge looks like in your organization today, where it's showing up across your teams, across your different departments. And then we want to talk about how we can think about retention more strategically and where recognition and total rewards is really making an impact. And then, of course, we'll move to a more practical side, what it looks like to bring recognition to life in a meaningful way, and how you're making recognition work day to day across different shifts and locations without adding more to our plates. And of course, finally, we wanted to talk about how we can get leaders and managers involved so that recognition becomes truly part of the culture and not just a program or a platform. And so I'll post these questions in a chat as well so that you have them on hand. But as we're going through these, feel free to think about what's resonating for you and where you might want to jump in. All right. We will kick things off with a quick poll about the topic today just to get it started. And in the meantime, because I know there are a bunch of questions in here, I'll pass it to you, Kaylee, to start the introduction of the panel. And once we're done with that, we can share the poll results and talk about it before we dive into the rest of the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Lori, Zach, I'd love to hop into, you guys telling us a little bit more about yourselves, your organization, and, how you're balancing having this 24-hour staff.
Yeah, I think I can start. I think one of the challenges for us and in any healthcare institution is that we have a really diverse staff. So we have leadership staff, we have frontline team members, we have clinical roles, we have non-clinical roles, we have on-site associates, we have off-site associates, we even have associates that work remotely. And so for us, how do we find like a recognition program platform that can be valuable to all associates? And one of the things that we struggle with too is how do we recognize the individuals who often do not get recognized enough? And so, as my history as a clinical staff member, as a physical therapist, a lot of times I'm directly with the patient. And so a lot of times I get that instant gratification of a success with the patient. Or I get that one-on-one interaction and whatnot. And sometimes the staff that are behind the scenes that put me in a situation to succeed and did a lot of work on the front end, so that I can, kind of fulfill those responsibilities on the back end. A lot of times those roles don't get recognized as much. And so, how do we create a platform, a program that recognizes such a diverse staff? I think that's one of the challenges for us at Cameron Health.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we certainly experience some of those same things. I think just for us, the challenges sit in the huge variances in the employment population, whether it's the variances in education, whether it's the variances in, as Zach mentioned, what the nature of the job is, from the housekeeper to the executive and everything in between, the time of day that they're working, the location that they're working, and then of course the generational variances, which are huge. And trying to figure out recognition is such an individual element, trying to find out the challenge of what makes each person in all of those variances what makes recognition important to them. And in particular, those folks on night shift who have less interaction with leadership, and leadership's typically the one providing the recognition, as well as, even just sometimes the communication of expectations and the progress towards those expectations is an ongoing challenge.
Yeah, and I would imagine quite a few of our attendees here are probably going through super similar challenges, and that's probably why they're here today. Becca, should we dive into the poll results?
Yeah, let's do it. Let me share the results here. Perfect. So for the first question, what's the biggest factor contributing to turnover in organization? It's really split. And the top three, I would say here, burnout slash workload, staffing shortages, compensation, and benefits. And I'll go through the questions and then Lori and Zach, we'd love to hear your commentary on that. Second question, how effectively does your recognition approach reach employees across all shifts and roles? Zach and Laura, I know you just talked a little bit about challenges here. And so, yeah, the overwhelming response here is that, yeah, it's somewhat effectively, but a lot of people are doing it very effectively. So that is also great news. And then the third question, what's the biggest challenge in making recognition consistent? And so the top two are getting managers to participate consistently. Yeah, Laura, I see you nodding there, and budget constraints. And so I think some of the topics that we're going over today, we'll probably touch on those. But Zach, Lori, was there anything you want to comment on for the results that we're seeing here?
I would say ditto.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the same.
If there's any consolation to that, it's that it appears across the country and even internationally, we're all experiencing the same things.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for participating. I will go off camera and I'll mute now, Kaylee. I'll just hand it over to you to continue the discussion here.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's hop into the meat and potatoes of this and start taking a look at retention. So, what does retention challenges look like in your environment today? Where are you feeling it most across, shifts, roles, team members?
I'll jump in. For us, the immediate right now is this ongoing perception that nurses get everything, that everyone else is the forgotten or second choice, or they get what's left over. And that's a really tough perception to overcome. And of course, you're balancing that perception with the nurses who feel that they're not getting enough. So that creates this challenge. And so really the ancillary and support employees who are feeling that they're never going to be the first choice for whatever recognition, market adjustments, benefits, whatever it may look like, I think is a huge challenge. In how do you really create your programs to make sure that every single person in each role feels valued?
Yeah, I echo what Lori's saying. I would say for us, staffing and retention, I wouldn't say it's like isolated to a specific department. I mean, we see it across the organization. We see it in clinical roles. We see it in non-clinical roles. And for us, we're a rural hospital, so we're trying to recruit and retain individuals from our community. We want to create an atmosphere and a culture where they want to stay local and serve locally at our hospital. But then we're also competing against some of the other healthcare systems in our area. So we're also trying to pull, staff and associates from other locations as well. And so for us, the emphasis has to be on our atmosphere and the culture that we create. How do we make sure that everyone feels valued? How do we make sure that everyone feels that the job that they're doing has an impact on the patients and families that are in our community? And we felt like those strategies have been more successful. I mean, like Lori was mentioning, like you can always try to throw money at people and you can try to do some of these other things. But ultimately, what we've seen that's impacted retention and staffing the most is creating an atmosphere and a culture where people want to serve, where they enjoy coming into work to serve the patients and the families in our community. And I think that's key going forward for any organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like Janet's echoing that as a third person here too, saying, it's really important to not just look at this as comp, but also what they're receiving as gifts and education. I'm curious if anyone in the chat has a question or, wants to dive a little bit deeper into that. Maybe not quite yet. We're still a little shy. It's all right. It's only the first question. Well, as a follow-up, I'm curious how, you're using recognition to work strategically for those things like retention and engagement.
You want to start, Lori? You want me to go?
Go ahead.
So I think in full disclosure, we do use Bucket List as part of our rewards and recognition platform, but I'd also echo that Bucket List is not the only thing that we do. It's just one component of what we do. I think in the past we've had different quarterly awards, and we still have like an annual awards event where we recognize associates based on our values and based on service awards. But one of the things that's been kind of nice for us, or it came across spontaneously, is we had a quarterly recognition and we had two members who couldn't come to the event. And so, as happenstance, we actually went to their department and recognized them with our senior leaders in the department in front of their team members. And we found that that was, really impactful for them. And that was probably more impactful than us even having just like a specific event. And so, for us, we use Bucket List. And when recognitions come in, we have a team of people that comb Bucket List and look for some of the recognitions that stick out, where these are really great examples of associates going above and beyond to serve our patients and families. And then we go to the department and thank them and give them a couple different gifts. And so we felt like that interaction, that face-to-face interaction is really valuable, going to the associates, going to the departments, going to the areas and creating those relationships and providing that thank you and that recognition opportunity in person. That's been really powerful for us. And so that's just kind of one way that we've kind of moved our rewards recognition platform forward. So
Definitely echo some of the things that you've mentioned, Zach. For us, when we're looking at retention and total rewards, one of the things that we identified was how intentional we have to be in adding activities that provide the increased opportunity for face time with our C-suite, with our senior executives. So two of the things that we are doing. One of them has been wildly successful. The other one is relatively new. But the one that's been wildly successful is bedside to boardroom. So that's an opportunity. It's done every other month with our CNO, and it's just an open opportunity for nurses to come in and chat with her, and it has been wildly successful, as well as Birthday with the Boss, which is employees whose birthdays are coming in to have breakfast with the CEO. So really that intentional setting the opportunities for intentional face time with our senior leaders. Also looking at, as I mentioned before, in trying to eradicate that perception that everything's about nursing, is providing other opportunities, whether it's professional development or compensation, among some of our other areas in ancillary. So creating clinical ladders or technical ladders that provide some additional opportunities for them. And like Zach, Bucket List is a great partner for us. I view them as our first and last stop for our recognition. So it may be the first place that we go for something, but it's also the last place we go. So when we're having these other celebrations, how are we making sure that we've got the picture or that we're blasting it, so that for those that maybe weren't able to participate in that celebration, they're still being able to capture what's happening. So great platform for us, but we see it as the foundation for us and not the sole platform or the sole driver of our recognition program.
Yeah, absolutely. I think bucket list is a great way to enhance what you have and help you create something, but it can't be the sole piece of your culture that drives what you're looking for. And I believe that someone may have raised their hand.
I think the hand is gone now, but there are a lot of questions and comments in the chat.
Perfect. Yeah. Zach, Lori, if you don't mind, how large are each of your organizations?
So the hospital that I just came from, we have 1,400 employees. They range from, as I said, housekeepers, all the way through to our senior executives. We do also employ physician residents and fellows in that organization. The region that I represent now, we have just about 8,000 employees.
Yeah, so Cameron Health, we're roughly 700 associates, part of our organization. And
Perfect. So
Kate, I don't know if you want me to take a moment to answer. I thought Janet had a great question I felt like, and this is long-winded, and again, if it's too long-winded, Kaylee, just don't invite me back because I struggle with this. But so Janet, we have a rewards and recognition team at Cameron Health, and that's a team that has leaders, it has frontline staff members, it has clinical roles, non-clinical roles, on-site, off-site associates. That was kind of the foundation for the program that we put together. And it's that group that combs bucket list and kind of looks for the individual recognitions, or if someone emails us, or if we hear about a story in a department meeting or at a safety huddle, then we're looking to do something additional, for that associate, persons, teams, or department. And then we send the invite goes out to our entire team, the immediate leaders with the team, and then our senior admin team. And so right before this, I actually came from one in our pediatric office where we actually had an associate within our organization reach out to us to express thanks for a group of providers who went to great lengths and did multiple, peer-to-peer reviews to get a medication approved for her associate's daughter or whatnot. And so that's the team that goes out and is a part of those recognitions.
Awesome. And then I saw Linda had a really great question around how do you guys feel about using continued education opportunities as a means for retention and recognition?
I could speak to that here quickly too. It's something that we've been very fortunate here at Cameron Health that where we support continuing education opportunities. I've been a part of different places where maybe that wasn't the case, and so if it really makes sense for our patients, families, if it makes sense for our community, we've had really good luck with our admin team and our leadership team getting different things approved, and it's really helped with not only recruiting but also retaining associates. And specifically, we just had two therapists join our organization, actually from out of state, and they chose us specifically because we were going to partner with them to obtain certifications that were going to help us meet needs of patients and families in our community. So that's a really good part of it because it's not, again, just all about an hourly rate, a sign-on bonus, or whatnot, but how are we going to help associates grow after they've joined our organization, and how are we going to support that growth? And then ultimately, both win, right? The associate wins, the hospital, our hospital wins, and then ultimately we're going to be able to meet the needs of our patients and families better. So yeah, that's a great strategy. It has to be a part of any recruiting, retention, staffing plans.
Completely agree. It can be done in so many different ways, and if the organization such as mine is fortunate enough to be able to offer us benefits, whether it's tuition reimbursement, student loan repayment, CEU reimbursement, that is such a wonderful reinvestment, as Zach said, back into that win-win for the employee as a recruitment strategy, as a retention strategy. As I mentioned, education is part of our ladders. So that gives us another opportunity to recognize those individuals who pursue additional education. And then just being able to celebrate, whether it's, as people finish degrees or they get advanced certification, that's really where there a great opportunity within the organization to, whether it's a post on bucket list or, we have lunches when we've got a cohort that might have finished their degree or an advanced certification, and really making a big deal about it, because that additional education just comes back, as Zach said, and impacts our patients and our ability to provide a higher level of care for our patients.
Absolutely. Not just a win-win, but a win-win-win just across the board for employee, employer, and then of course the patients, like you mentioned. Amazing. All right. Anyone else want to come off mute and ask any other follow-up questions to that? All right. Looks like we can move on. So during that, oh, actually, it looks like Janet raised her hand.
Hi. So I had a question of Lori. Remember, we were talking about how there's this perceived divide between nurses and everyone else. Do you find that the clinical staff, the people who need those regular recertifications, benefit more from the types of recognition you're using with education? same question, I think, for Zach. Do you find that that creates any type of perceived inequity between the two groups?
That is a great question, Janet. And, I think we have to be honest and say the need is greater for our clinical and technical staff because the CEUs, the education is used towards their license or renewals of
Yes.
their license or certification. So certainly I'm stating the obvious there. That said, we've really been trying to focus in on we had found one of the local community colleges was offering a dedicated 4-week free of charge program to our non-licensed, non-certified folks who were interested. It was sort of an accelerated program to get them the CNA, certified nursing assistant certification.
Mm-hmm.
And just by simply putting it out there and providing that opportunity to our employees, giving them the time off for work to be able to
Yes.
go and get it done, was really great. We also really, really celebrate our folks who come in, whether it's a lab assistant. For example, I've got a lab assistant who started as a housekeeper, then moved to lab assistant, and is one of our nursing new grads. And those
Mm-hmm.
are huge, huge things to celebrate as you watch
Yes.
your folks take advantage of that. So disproportionately, yes, it's the clinical technical people that are using it, but I feel that the responsibility sits with not just human resources, but all of leadership to make sure every employee knows the opportunities are out there. But then really, really celebrating
Yeah.
those other folks who are not
Mm-hmm.
clinical or technical so that they realize, wow, there's a lot of options out here for me and I'm going to be supported by the organization.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jen, I think that's an outstanding question. And to echo kind of what I was saying prior, like it's easy for us to get stuff approved if it makes sense for our patients, if there's a clinical need and whatnot. If there's no need or a limited need, that makes things a little bit more difficult naturally to get approved. So I do think I agree with Lori that inherently, yes, some of the clinical staff will benefit from some of those opportunities. But it's not exclusive to clinical staff. And I think it's on us as leaders to be creative and think outside the box. And so, a couple things that we have here at Cameron, we have different mentorship programs that can work with frontline staff members, whether they're in a clinical or a non-clinical role, and start developing leadership skills so that when opportunities become available within our organization, hopefully, or even outside of our organization, that we're preparing them to grow into and develop into leaders and fulfill and kind of grow within. And so that's been a really nice thing for us. And I'm even thinking of someone specifically with our customer service team, who has a bachelor's and she's excelling at the customer service role that she's in right now. And so we're intentionally looking for other opportunities for her. So she's participating in a mentorship program right now. We're doing some job training in another area to try to grow her skills further. And I think also just being creative too. Like when I went to school for physical therapy, I didn't think I was going to be, involved in patient experience, customer service, or even helping like with an independent living facility. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of being creative to find people to serve roles that they're going to be successful in. And so I think when you have that creative mindset and you're growing people and preparing them for those opportunities when they arise, hopefully they can meet that challenge. Yeah, I thought that was an outstanding question.
Thank you.
Amazing. Well, let's move on to our next question. So, in the previous question, we talked about, really needing that flexibility for your staff. How are we bringing to life recognition in a way that ensures everyone from, clinical to non-clinical staff feels really seen and valued?
Yeah, I can start with that, Kaylee. And I think Janet asked a question about what that rewards and recognition team, who that is comprised of, but that was developed initially to get feedback from our team members. And I think whenever you're starting any type of program or you're looking to refine a program, I think you need to obtain feedback from individuals throughout your organization. Again, that's why that team was formed. I think previously we had an application, and when someone would do something good, they would get an impression. And as a result of getting that impression, they get a $2 gift card to our cafe, which was a cool thing and a great thing for me if I'm on site. But that wasn't really doing a whole lot for our offsite associates or doing anything for our remote associates. And so when we formed that team, we were asking both on-site, off-site associates, what does recognition mean to you guys? What would you guys value? What do you guys want to see? And the feedback that we got is we wanted to be inclusive, we wanted to be responsive. And again, in full disclosure, Bucket List filled a lot of those needs. It's an application that is available on the computer, it's available on the phone. You can put recognition in at any time. You can give away points. You keep the points, and you can trade those in for gift cards and whatnot. We can even trade those in or give them to our Cameron Foundation, so we can donate to different charity organizations. And so it's been a really inclusive, really responsive, platform as part of our rewards and recognition program. But it all started with us getting feedback from team members throughout our organization. And that team that we have, Kayla, they consistently meet. So we meet once a month. We go through Bucket List. We want to see how it's being utilized. And then we're looking at the top stories and trying to develop a plan for how we're going to recognize those individuals across our organization. So those monthly meetings have helped kind of operationalize it in a sense.
Yeah,
Amazing.
definitely some similarities in approach. We also have an employee, we call it our employee recognition committee, which includes our marketing director, some of our other both support and clinical directors, and some of our C-suite members and human resources, of course. I think for us, the key in getting our program, getting the recognition out to everyone, clinical, non-clinical, day shift, night shift, etc., is not relying on just simply one method of recognition, which is really where we came from at the hospital. And it was great if you worked a Monday through Friday non-direct patient care position, because it was a half-hour party, so to speak. But obviously that's not working well for 90% of the population in a hospital. So really looking at multiple mechanisms for recognition, lots of channels that really can help sustain what the program is that we're trying to do. So while we have have had a very robust DAISY recognition celebration, our CEO newsletter is sent out via email. So anybody, and that's weekly, religiously weekly, that includes not only what's happening in the hospital, but also all of the recognitions that are happening. And so it provides another mechanism for people to read that email when they're able to. So if they're night shift, they're reading it at night. If they're working on the weekend, they're reading it on the weekend. We've increased the employee rounding, and our C-suite is dedicated. So whoever is AOC, they are doing night and weekend rounding, and just building that in to increase the visibility and the opportunity for FaceTime, which in and of itself we know is recognition. We had a huge recognition week that we just brought in, Bucket List. And as with Zach, it is, as I mentioned, it's our first and last place, tying it always back to Bucket List. But we took some of those folks who fly under the radar that do amazing things and celebrated them. And some of these folks were night shift people. And so it was a commitment. We didn't just say, okay, well, we need you to come in during the day so we can celebrate you. No, we took the party to them in their department at night, big celebration. And really those kinds of efforts to where, similar to what Zach was mentioning, finding every possible way we can to promote. Another way of identifying it to everyone is we've got our employees of the month pictures posted in a public setting, so that people can see what's happening. And for us, we've really found that we're moving that needle because we aren't relying on simply one, this is our recognition. We do employee of the month and now we're done.
Hey, Kaylee, can I comment? I hope I'm
Yeah.
pronouncing the name right. Theodis, he had a really good comment in the chat about, putting a committee together and the difficulties that can present. And I definitely understand where he's coming from. I saw that at the past organization I worked with, and I think one of the things that we tried to do is, strategically select certain members that were going to be a part of that committee. Now, again, we did want representation from throughout our organization. Again, we wanted clinical, non-clinical, on-site, off-site associates and what have you. But we did have key members that were kind of serving as like, they kind of gave us some guardrails. Because I would admit, first couple of meetings that we had, we wanted to create kind of like a framework. We wanted, objectives that we wanted to achieve, values that we wanted to try to incorporate. But the second meeting we had, there was a lot of ideas coming out of it. And immediately, like some of those ideas were kind of popular with the group, but like I knew internally, like there's no way we're going to be able to make some of these happen. And so having other members strategically placed as a part of that, so having someone from our risk team and whatnot, they would kind of give us some guardrails so that we were all kind of moving in a direction they wanted us to move, but also kind of having some guardrails there. But I do empathize and sympathize with what that's like because I've seen that as well.
Absolutely. Great question and great comment as well. And I think it kind of leads to kind of a follow-up question, if I'm being honest, which, everything you guys have said sounds really great. Recognition in theory is a really great concept, but how have you made it work, day to day without adding too much actual operational burden to your team?
And again, full disclosure, that's kind of one of the reasons that we went with Bucket List. The platform that we had previously, there was a lot of manual work in the background. So that was something upfront that we did not want to create a lot of manual processes. We wanted something that was immediate, responsive, limited work for anybody to do on the back end. And it's also got to be, you have to have, I agree with Lori completely. It sounds like they just have so many different formats on how they're recognizing their associates. And I think that's really, really important. But I also think you need to have something that's really easy, quick wins for staff to do. And for us, again, Bucket List has really helped with that. Because again, easily accessible through a computer, on a phone. I mean, you can be in a hallway, you can step out of a patient's room, you can go to your office really quick, and you can throw in a recognition, give points. We can assign the Cameron values to that recognition. And so I think making it as easy and as streamlined as possible for frontline staff to recognize each other. And again, I agree with Lori completely. And they have a lot of great things. I love the birthday with the boss, Lori. I've wrote that down for sure. And it's important to have leadership recognizing frontline staff, but it's also there's a lot of magic when frontline staff are recognizing each other. And again, if you have something that's easily accessible, it just makes it that much easier for them to do that.
I don't know that I have anything different to add to that at all. Really my response is just that if it's easy, it will be used.
I think that's spot on. Perfect. Good work, guys. All right, going back to that poll we asked everyone, one of the big takeaways was, how do we get managers to actually participate in programs like this? And, how are you guys actually doing that? How are you making sure that your managers and your leaders are taking ownership rather than putting all of the onus on, your HR team or whoever's coordinating these programs?
Well, I would say for us, oh, go ahead, Lori, go ahead.
I was going to just jump in. This was truly one of my biggest pain points was recognition was being owned, managed, executed, implemented, measured by 3 people. And I was one of them. And that's never going to be a strong program or a sustainable program. So I was pretty self-serving and wanting to find some changes. And really our leadership, what we found was the moment we made it easy, that helped significantly. But for our leaders, whether it's our supervisors, managers, directors, or senior executives, the accountability piece of it, absolutely that people need to be accountable. So whether, the elements of tying it in recognition and retention, tying it in to employee engagement survey results, tying it in to annual evaluations, tying it into turnover, tying it into open positions. All of that accountability component really was the big shift. And then we provide different mechanisms, a platform that's as fun and as easy as Bucket List, and we've really been able to see some significant improved results. And if I can just take a second to share one of my favorite success stories. I had a director in a support department, I want to be careful here, whose candidly employee engagement surveys were deplorable and very concerning. And we knew it wasn't a surprise because I saw the revolving door with the turnover and all of the typical things. And this particular individual, literally one of my top 3 leaders in the use of Bucket List, next employee engagement survey, huge, dramatic improvement. Turnover significantly increased. And when you have a department where you've got 10 employees or less, that really is a mechanism of, is this department going to be stable or not for the hospital? And so it's really, being able to tie in, hey, your survey results are not okay and your turnover results are not okay. Well, let's come up with a strategy. And to see this individual embrace Bucket List the way he did. And what I love is he's not just recognizing his employees, he's recognizing everybody.
Yeah, I know I'm going to make Lori smile when I say this. But yeah, I mean, the Bucket List platform, it has, leadership dashboards, it has recognition dashboards, so you can quickly see who's being recognized the most and then who's giving out the most recognitions. And we've incorporated that into our annual review process, which again, Lori might make you smile just a little bit. And so like with, our customer service manager, getting ready to do her review here shortly. And she gave out the most recognitions in our organization. She gave out 280 recognitions last fiscal year. And so we'll incorporate that. We'll say, hey, this associate gave out this many recognitions. They received this many recognitions. And so it's a part of our annual review process, which I think, again, holds us, accountable to if the platform is being used. Because again, Bucket List can be a great platform. But if our leaders, if our frontline staff associates aren't using it, then it's not useful for us at all. And I think I keep reading the chat here too. Priscilla, I mean, you guys are asking some really good questions. Who was that? Janet asked another great question. If I could answer it really quick, Kaylee. One of the things that we've used Bucket List for is for special awards. So we had an associate pass away a couple years ago. It was a pretty traumatic event within our organization. And so we created the Amber R. Stuckey Nursing Award for Compassion. And we used Bucket List to capture some of those nominations. So there's a nomination tab on Bucket List. We created that award, and associates were directed to, go to Bucket List to place that nomination right while they're nominated in person for the award. And this past November, we gave out that award for the first time at our annual recognition event. And so we've kind of created some of those awards internally that mean a lot for us and that are impactful for us. And again, Bucket List isn't that platform, but we use that platform to kind of highlight that service award specifically. So.
Yeah, I was going to jump in when I saw that question as well. That Bucket List has that opportunity or the capacity for nominations for those kinds of awards. And so if it's something that your facility wants to tap into that, our employee, and I was laughing when I saw it's not an easy, Janet saying not easy to manage. That was our former program. Our senior executives committed to streamlining Employee of the Month, and we actually have had great results with it. Nominations come in. We added to our SharePoint page. It's just a click. Anybody can electronically submit their applications or their nominations, and it all feeds into our employee committee. And our employee committee narrows it down to 5 candidates, and then that goes through what we call our strategy team, which is the senior executives, and we then identify, who the winner is going to be each month, after, of course, HR has vetted out those who perhaps may not be in good standing. But it actually, between having an electronic nomination system and then just the employee committee doing the heavy lifting of taking, what could be 60, 70 nominations, narrowing it down for the senior executives. It's really made it a very easy approach. And then the employee committee schedules, if the person's night shift or day shift, schedules the meeting accordingly with the department head to make sure that the person is going to be available on the day we want to do the recognition. And I have done zero other than vet who's maybe not in good standing and showing up for the celebration. It has been a beautiful thing.
Amazing. And I think honestly, that's the biggest piece, right? If it's not easy, it's probably not going to be sustainable for you. You guys started to kind of talk about this a little bit, but I'd love to hear maybe if there's like a specific recognition moment that had a meaningful impact on your team.
I can start, Lori, if you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
So we had a story come across bucket list kind of early on. And it was interesting because it was, a little bit of a detailed post, but it kind of referenced a great catch in our radiology department. And we saw that and we wanted to be like, wanted to hear more about it. And so we reached out to the department level and found out this was a significant catch that immediately saved a patient's life, meaning if the person performing that radiology examination had not happened to notice a specific thing and make one of our providers aware, it was very likely this patient probably would have passed away. And so we got more detail on that story. And then in Indiana, we have the Indiana Department of Rural Health. We have the Indiana Hospital Association. They give out a Caregiver of the Year award. And so we nominated this associate for Caregiver of the Year, and she was selected to receive that award on behalf of Cameron Health. And we're not only really proud of her, really proud of the providers, the entire team that, was a part of that moment, that impact. I think our rewards and recognition team kind of felt proud is, that story could have potentially been lost. And we saw it come across bucket list. We saw a little bit of detail, but we wanted to dive in a little bit more and learn more about it. And because we had bucket list, because we were paying attention there, because we dived in a little bit more, we were able to recognize that associate, and the patient was able to be a part of that recognition. It was just a really powerful, moment for Cameron Health, and we were proud to just kind of have a small part of it. So that was probably one of the more unique stories that's come out of our relationship with Bucket List and our rewards and recognition platform.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, Lori, no pressure to go after that, but
Well, and I won't try in this to match that in the same capacity. What I Where I went when you asked that question was the feeling, the actual feeling from our in March, we did an employee appreciation week. And during that week, we selected what I thought was going to be 7 or 8. We ended up having 13 because they were so amazing. Nominations of folks who above and beyond. And, they're not the employees of the month. They're not the people who are always getting all the recognition. What I like to refer to as our unsung heroes. And during the Employee Appreciation Week, we were able to really celebrate these people, read their stories. Either we had one day that was a huge rally, and we literally had more than 70 people at this rally, and recognize those individuals. C-suites were reading the stories. We were giving them, a whole lot of love. And the room was filled with their peers. And for those that we didn't do at that rally throughout the week, we were going to their department. And I think of one, our housekeeping supervisor, our lead caterer, who's in at 4 o'clock in the morning. Nobody ever thinks about how does this food get here? How does it become so beautiful? It's just, it happens. Well, you know, there's a wonderful person behind that. And when we went into the kitchen that day to recognize her, she literally burst into tears. And her teammates were around and her director was there. And when we went to take her picture, there were literally 25 people in that picture. Because she was so loved, and every single one of those individuals, it was just a week of feeling that I wish I could bottle because it was so powerful. And it is certainly not the kind of story that Zach shared with us, but I still think the similarity is the power is in the feeling, not the prize. The power is in the feeling.
Well said.
Absolutely. I think it comes back to what you were saying about like birthdays with your boss as well, right? It's not about the monetary piece that you're giving people for going above and beyond. It's about that appreciation and making them feel seen as well. Now, back to kind of the idea of, retention and engagement. You've both been with Bucket List for a little while. Now that you've been using it, have you seen any consistent recognition influence on retention or engagement?
I will tackle this because it's one that I am so very proud of. And bucket list is a part of this. It is not the sole reason for this. And I'm going to give my CNO and my nursing leaders a lot of credit on this one. We went from 25% nursing turnover to 17% nursing turnover. And in a year to year. That was huge. My facility had never seen nursing turnover anywhere near below 20%. And so for us, that really is the most tangible ROI I could ever show a CEO or CFO as far as saying what we're doing is making a difference. And the opening question, staffing was one of the challenges. And when we're able to retain folks, that no longer becomes an issue.
Yeah, I think some of our success has not only shown up with just better staffing, better retention, and decrease in overall turnover. I think, Laura, you referenced it early on, but I think we alternate years in the sense that we have a like culture of patient safety survey, and then we have an employee satisfaction survey that alternate. And our results there have steadily improved and consistently outperformed like I wouldn't say our competitors, but outperform maybe other hospitals in the state and nation. And so that's something that we've referenced, and we've been really happy with the progress that we've made in those areas. And again, like Lori was saying, the recognition programs that we have in place is a small part of that. There's a lot of things that help kind of drive some of those things, but those are different metrics that we're kind of looking at to see what kind of impact our rewards and recognition platform are having.
Absolutely.
Amazing. Yeah, it's incredible to hear what you guys have done. And, kind of on that closing thought, any perspectives or advice that you'd like to share? What do you think healthcare organizations still get wrong about recognition in this 24/7 environment?
For me, lack of sincerity.
Awesome.
So often, and that's first and foremost what comes to mind is, oh, I'm a manager, I'm a supervisor, I'm a senior executive. Today is my recognition day. I'm gonna, send out the note or do a round and shake a hand. It's methodical, it's robotic, it lacks sincerity, and that just it's gonna bomb every time. So I think that's a big one. Make it all about the prize, the monetary, and not about the actual recognition and how we're making someone feel seen, valued, as you said, Kaylee. And Zach, you mentioned this too, and then failing to emphasize the power of peer-to-peer recognition. That is, I think for me, those are the things that are really just going to kill your recognition.
Laura, I love your point on sincerity. That's so well said. And I would just say, like, again, a recognition program doesn't have to be just like a huge event, a huge ceremony. It doesn't have to have trophies and stuff like that. I think some of the more powerful recognitions that I've received personally of just me passing a leader in a hallway and that leader taking a moment to pause and like say a couple kind words or a couple encouraging words or recognizing something I had done previously and mentioning that. I think even small moments can have a really big impact. So, again, it doesn't have to be a trophy, a gift card. It doesn't have to have like some type of financial value behind it. I think the sincerity, again, which is very well said by you, Lori, and then just the fact that even the small moments can really add up and be really impactful to people.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to always be elaborate, right? It's just about
Right.
being meaningful.
Except for those employees who want the parade and the music and the band and the circus.
Yeah.
Got to give them an
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, any last thoughts from Kaylee or Zach or Lori before we sign off today?
thank you. It's always fun to be amongst our peers and learning from each other because we need each other. That's how we get through this.
Yeah, I just always appreciate the opportunity to learn and share. And so, yeah, again, thank you, Lori, because I've taken a lot of notes from our last meeting and from this session. So, yeah, much appreciated.
Well, thank you all so much for your time. Kaylee, Lori, and Zach, again, thank you for your time and the generosity of your wisdom. I know we all really appreciated it. And in the comments too, thank you all so much for sharing what you're seeing, what your questions are, and what your thoughts are, just to make this a much richer conversation overall. So this is part one of our roundtable series. We have a second one scheduled, so I'll send out some emails after the event and you can totally get signed up there as well. So have a great rest of your Thursday and wishing you all a wonderful week ahead and a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
thank you.
much.